It's like he's like,
I had a
Brooks. Dude, Brooks is gonna win one tournament this year.
I hope.
yeah, he's got a good feature group. Did y'all see
Is he
did y'all
playing
watch
this
the
weekend?
entire Seahawks game
Yeah.
Fell
this
asleep in the
weekend?
third quarter.
The Seahawks game?
Yeah, do you
Yeah,
watch the
yeah,
whole thing, Chuck?
yeah.
I had a four-leg touchdown parlay. It was like 20 to win 600, and the last leg was Parkinson, and he dropped that third and one where he could have like turned up field.
Mm.
I was sitting there, me and my buddies were playing poker, and we all were just like, we just watched. We're like, yeah, all right. I literally left instantly. I got to start hitting some of those. Super Bowl is when I come to play though. But
Yeah, that is,
this Super Bowl, like I could see it
So
ending. Well, I don't see how
uninspiring.
this. Yeah, the Patriots are so fucking like so uninspiring. They have not impressed me a single time in their two
I'm
wins,
excited.
three
Dude,
wins.
they've had the easiest Super Bowl path of all time. Like
Dude, they had whatever his Coleridge, Bertridge, Bernard, Stroud the fourth when he was throwing meatballs, and then
meatball hoagies.
Stidham was actually playing like not bad, and then
Diddy.
it just started snowing. Like
Dude, that was like one of the worst football games I've ever watched.
I have, dude. Why did he? Why did I guess we'll talk to? Why did he not kick the field goal in like the on that one on
So
like
we
fourth
just
down?
said before
But
you
then
got on.
but then kick the field, try the field goal with like 6 minutes left if on like a 45. That kick was never going in.
Yeah, that had no chance. I mean, they were lining
I
it
mean, I
up,
know it
like you
got
couldn't even tell
blocked,
the
but
lot, the yard line it
yeah,
was on.
I was like, dude, there's no chance. Like
Yeah,
in
Jim Nance and like Tony Romo were like, yeah, we're gonna try to get you a reading here for how far, but we have no idea what yard line it's on.
yeah, I don't know what you were like even.
Uninspiring performance from Tony Romo in that game as well.
Let's get this rolling. Let's let's
Yeah, I'm down to get this rolling because I
I
need to
want
go
to
to
talk
bed
about
soon.
Tony.
Yeah, all right, we'll get it rolling. Duska, we got the 30th podcast. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
All right.
30th episode.
Yeah, 30th episode of the
Down the hatch.
you know what it is.
Feels like we started yesterday.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 30th edition of the Forward Pass podcast. We've got myself, Sam Perry, Caleb Archer, Luke Duska. You already know what's going on. We've got some NFL talk today. We're going to hit some NFL, the games that happened, some of the coaching moves. Now we're going to move into some portal stuff at the end, so you'll get your little sprinkle of college football. But I want to start with the Seahawks Rams game, specifically the amazing quarterback play we saw in this game. The stat lines read like this: Darnold was 25 of 36 for 346 yards, 83 QBR, and three touchdowns, no picks. Stafford, 22 of 35, 374, three picks, I mean, three touchdowns, no picks, 82 QBR. Just, I mean, with Darnold, you expect like in every game that there's going to be a couple times where he puts the ball into danger, and you're like, "Ooh, I don't know about that." And then a lot of times there's picks, there's fumbles. None of that happened with Darnold. What a career outlook changing game for Sam Darnold in a time where everybody can kind of look back on his career, because usually, like we were saying, like Duska last podcast, you were saying you were like, you picked the Rams, right? Because you were like, I trust that at the end of the game, give me Stafford, not Darnold. And this was a true testament to Darnold's development as a quarterback and development as, this is a big spot to be in, and he really delivered. I thought one thing that Brady was awesome in this game from a color commentary standpoint, but one thing he was talking about is how like Darnold's more explosive than he is surgical. And so when you think of Sam Darnold, he's more in that like Brett Favre, Big Ben type of category of like a little bit of like a gunslinger, puts the ball into dangerous areas, can improv a bit. He's not like the Brady or Rodgers surgical, like down the field. We're just gonna pick you apart slowly, death by a thousand paper cuts. But today, I mean not today, last week and this last weekend, he was surgical, and I think we. Not to get too far into this, but we'll talk later about just the receiver play in this game and how awesome it was. But I just kind of wanted to give it off with that. What a statement game from Sam Darnold. What say you guys? Anybody's allowed to go. Luke, you start us off.
All right. Well, first and foremost, I did pick the Rams because I expected a some type of Sam Darnold collapse at some point in the game. And it didn't happen. I mean, I texted you guys like I think it was like at some point in the third quarter.
The Darnold pick is
And
inevitable.
yeah, when they were flip-flopping and like the Rams were down a few points like a few different times. There was one drive starter where I was like the Sam Darnold turnover is so inevitable. And I was waiting and waiting and waiting and it never happened. So
Just never came.
I still it's still hard for me to wrap my head around the idea that he's going to win a Super Bowl. Like picturing him holding a Lombardi trophy, it just doesn't feel all right. Like I picture Drake May holding a Lombardi, and I'm like, okay, that's reasonable. Like you'd expect this guy to win a Super Bowl at some point in his career, and just I think this is going to change everyone's perception of QBs that have been considered busts that can find a second life somewhere, and I think Sam Darnold's the perfect example of a guy that was. I mean, the Jets are such a joke. They're by far the worst franchise in the NFL. Browns probably close second, but the Jets are. Well, the Browns can't even find a coach. That's the funny part. But the Jets are such a dumpster fire. Nobody wants to go there. Every time there's a QB that is going to enter the draft and they know the Jets have a high draft pick, like they get second thoughts and maybe want to go back to school because nobody wants to play for that organization. So him going there was a stroke of misfortune for sure. And I think that it's it should make people reconsider when you consider someone a bust. And I think Baker kind of went through the same thing. He was in a similar situation, I'd say, even though the Browns had a little more success with him while he was there, they still cast him aside. So I think it's just gonna. I think Daniel Jones is another good example. It's just gonna reshape the way that we discuss certain
Yeah.
players that could have a career renaissance if and it also depends on the guy. Like you could take any quarterback, but I think Sam Darnold has a special combination of internal motivators too that got him in the position that he's going to be in. It's not just because he was with the 49ers for a year and Kyle Shanahan got him right and then he was able to do the things he was able to do in Minnesota and this year. I think that it takes a special type of resilience and that's like the type of thing that's important for draft process and people can talk about the scheme and system all they want, but I heard Todd McShay talk about this earlier. It's kind of a disservice to the evaluation process and seeing what QBs are made of and what is driving them and their ability to respond to situations like that. And I think the difference between Sam Darnold and a guy like I was watching a lot of videos about Ryan Leaf recently and how he handled his lack of success and how it translated to how his career ended up playing out. I think the internal part of Sam Darnold is underrated and his ability to respond to the lack of success that he had. I think that's the coolest part about his story. And I think I need to reframe my mind and get used to the idea that he is a high level quarterback in the NFL and he's a type of guy that can take you to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. So I'm still not gonna believe that or be able to picture in my head and it feel right that Sam Darnold's going to be holding a Lombardi trophy, but the odds and likelihood of that happening are pretty good at this
They just
point.
went
So
up. And he's
yeah,
only
so
28. He's a 28-year-old
dude, yeah,
kid.
he's a young guy. This is like a complete career renaissance, which
Yeah.
is I mean, hats off to the guy because he was seeing ghosts. Like that clip is like probably a little overplayed, but it's still something that's like on film of it's something that he said and people reacted to it very strongly, but being able to respond to that and be in the position he's in now, it's very commendable. And that's my biggest takeaway from the game, just how impressed I am with, I mean, that was one of the best QB performances we've seen all year. And it was in a huge moment in the NFC Championship. So,
Sam, what say you about Darnold's QB rehabilitation? And let me say one thing before you go, Sam. Darnold was at a bunch of the Niners guys' wedding. So like when he was a backup at the Niners, this was a lovable guy that rallied around him quickly. Go, Sam.
Yeah, I think that obviously, Duska, you hit on like his career renaissance and how awesome it is to see him succeed at this high of a level when everyone was kind of expecting, myself included, him to make a catastrophic play, whether that was in this game against the Rams or even in the divisional round against the 49ers that would ultimately cost them, similar to what you saw last year in that Vikings game when he, stood in the pocket the whole time and took a million sacks. But I want to give some flowers to some other guys on their team. I mentioned in my game preview that I thought Zach Charbonnet being out would be a huge blow for the Seattle offense because of how heavily they've relied on the run. And part of Darnold's success this season has come from and stemmed from their ability to consistently run the ball, especially against high-level defenses. And I thought that Charbonnet's absence would almost be a backbreaker and make them rely on Darnold a little bit too much. But I want to give some flowers to Kenneth Walker. While his stats like don't necessarily blow you away, 19 carries for 62 yards, it's just a little bit over 3 yards a carry, and then had about 50 receiving yards, 49 exactly. So he had 110 total yards of offense, but I felt like he was very efficient and their run game was really efficient, which allowed Darnold's job to be a lot easier.
Him
And
and
then
RJ Harvey for the Broncos running back, they tied this week in broken tackles. They each had 6. So you're right. Kenneth Walker was just hard to bring down.
there was even plays in that game where like you're not going to see this pop up on the stat sheet, but a 1 yard rush sometimes is just as important as a big rush when he's blown up in the backfield and you get Darnold in these tough situations. So I felt that for the majority of the game, Darnold was in advantageous situations because of the efficiency of the run game. And then another thing I want to bring up, and we talked about this a little bit last week with a new potential trend in roster construction in the NFL. And I just want to read off a couple of the big names on Seattle and what their cap hit is. Starting off with their quarterback, Sam Darnold's cap, he's making about 15-ish or 30-ish a year as the quarterback, with a base salary of $12 million. So that's what his cap hit is. And then some of their other really important players, like JSN, for example, is making 2.7 mil. And then Devon Weatherspoon, 1.1 mil. Nikki Minwari, 1 mil. So you see, I think this is a testament overall, and this partially goes with Darnold's success at the quarterback position and the way that he's been able to develop. I think a lot of credit needs to go to just Seattle's coaching staff and their ability to evaluate talent successfully and develop talent at a very high level.
And
And
John Schneider, the GM. This
right.
organization is 4-0 in their career of NFC championships. So impressive.
So that they've done a really good job of finding talent in the draft and maximizing talent at other positions on the field, in a league structure where you see teams kind of, put 30 to 40% of their salary cap in 2 to 3 players, and it's backfired. So I think there's obviously like Darnold should get a ton of credit, played amazing, but I would like to see some more credit go to Seattle staff and some other guys on the team that completely balled out too.
Arch, I guess I'll kick it to you as the local Georgia guy. Do you got anything on Stafford, the Rams, or just in general thoughts of the game?
Well, it was awesome, obviously, to see Mike McDonald and their staff perform, and also their players perform at a high level on a big stage. Mike McDonald is a University of Georgia grad, so he's representing for the Peach State. So that was awesome. Stafford played a fantastic game. I mean, it was like he was getting better as the game went on. The Rams, if you look at like EPA and yards per play and stuff like that, their offense dominated that game. And I think that the Rams and McVay are going to look back on the middle 8 as the reason they lost that game, giving up the touchdown before half. And then I forget what order it came in, but the muff punt and then the muff punt and giving up the touchdown, I believe that was right before half. Those are the kind of things that lose you games when you lose the middle 8, and the Rams did that in this game. But the Rams offense was performing it. I believe it was 8 yards a play was like was what, and I think their advanced stats, their success rate was a lot higher. So they were dominating down and down, and they are the Seahawks Mike McDonald defense kryptonite. I mean, all 3 games this year they played better than any other offense in the NFL with the Seahawks. But yeah, you kind of lost the middle 8. You had the tough break with Xavier Smith on his back trying to catch the punt, and then that leads to points. So, like we've talked all year, muff punts will ruin you, and unfortunately,
The
they
year of
ruined
muff
the
punts,
Rams
Arch.
and they ruined the Rams on the biggest stage.
I mean, playoff football is a three-phase game. We talked about that, and it seems like every other game, the Rams have some special teams blunder that is catastrophic. Like again, in the Panthers game, Isaiah Simmons blocks the punt, almost catastrophic, and then they muff a punt, and then they skip a game, the Bears game, no catastrophic special teams errors, and then an error with the Smith fumble. I kind of wanted to talk about um, two position groups. One, Duska, we'll go to you first. So just when I was watching this game, I've always been a big Charles Cross guy. I liked him coming out of college. That was one of my guys that I always pick like one or two defensive edge rushers and offensive tackles that I just like kind of assign my allegiance to. Charles Cross is one of those guys. Cannot say I was all that educated on Abraham Lucas, but I thought they did a nice job on verse all game. He had one sack. And that was his only solo tackle. So they didn't allow him to be the game wrecker that he can be, and they kept Darnold clean most of the night. And
I think just quick point on that. I think that so Jared versus obviously his bread and butter is a bull rush or a speed to power, just putting his two hands into your chest and driving you back into the quarterback. I think that Charles Cross is the perfect counter to that because he's the guy that he's going to be in a good spot and a good position to first absorb that contact, and then he is so big, so strong. He might be the most adept player in the NFL to be able to anchor down against the speed to power. So that's like the move that you're not going to be able to beat him with. So I think it was the Rams they're not super finesse. They're pretty just powerful, and Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, they all utilize a lot of power to get to the QB. So they weren't able to, the edges at least weren't able to impact Sam Darnold the way that you'd want them to. So I was very impressed with Charles Cross as well.
Yeah, I mean, and then also I kind of wanted to hit on JSN and Puka might be the two best receivers in the league. And while they're not your typical Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson X receiver where they just get man-to-man coverage all game and it's go win, like your Calvin Johnson type. The league is 70% zone coverage now. So teams are gonna play tons of zone coverage. So having a guy that's very multiple, you can motion him almost every play. It seems like they're on motion. They can sit down in zones, and then when they do play man coverage, they can beat it. Like Puka when he runs like the fake in and up on Tyreek Woolen right after Woolen takes that penalty. That was a game-changing play. But so they both finished with they I think combined like 300 and some yards, like unbelievable. Both I think like Puka had 160, JSN had 150. Um Puka is, I don't think people realize what an awesome season he's had. Here's some statistics. So in the postseason and regular season, offensive teams will compile like expected points added, so in EPA. So the Rams have the highest EPA with 194. The Bills have the highest EPA with 179.6. And then Puka by himself has the third highest EPA this year with 142.4, followed by the Packers, then Pats. So like this guy is accounting for more expected points in terms of analytics than full-on offenses. Only two offenses have more expected points than him. Like he is so valuable and such a huge playmaker. He's number one in yards per route run. JSN's number two. He's in the regular season, he was first in receiver EPA with 118. Puka was. JSN was second with 97.7. Basically, all I'm saying is like the game is changing rapidly in terms of like defenses playing zone coverage and like having guys that are a little bit undersized or maybe lack some verticality, like speed wise, maybe like going down the go balls down the sideline can be easily made up for with toughness, savant route running, catching the football yards after catch. So, I mean, these guys are like running backs with the ball in their hands, and you saw that kind of play out in this game.
I think the thing that's most impressive is the lack of physical traits from both of those guys. I know Puka's like huge and super strong, great blocker and everything, but I think it's cool to see guys that aren't the
He runs
build
like
of
an idiot.
a traditional X receiver, and you're able to line them up all over the place, and they're just complete weapons, and you can't find a way to stop them. Like JSN was unstoppable too, and I think it's impressive because they're not the traditional X receiver, like a Marvin Harrison Jr. type of guy, like
Yep.
that type of build.
Yep.
But they're able to produce at such a high level. It's pretty cool. It's like Makai Lemon. I feel like he's like the next next in line, next guy, similar in that light
Yep.
to that's going to be able to do that. And that's kind of where the game is shifting. It's shifting to guys that with that build being a little more dominant.
What were you saying, Sam?
I just said Steeler.
Oh, you think? I hope so. Oh, that'd be
Steeler if he's
awesome,
not an
Sam.
Eagle.
Yeah, we get a pick before you, so all right, I think we're good with this game. So I guess we'll move on to the next game. In this
Terrible
game,
game.
the Broncos versus the Patriots, the Snow Bowl that Sam asked for. Sam, I don't know why you asked for it because you got a stinker of a game. That game sucked. So part of the reason I love college football, guys, like, is because if you get if this was a college football game, let's say hypothetically this is BYU Arizona football, and we're playing this game in Provo, Utah. It's Utah. We're dumping snow. In a college football game, you're gonna get tons of fumbles, some Steven interceptions. You're probably gonna get a defender
We got that.
not filling a gap. You're true. Not filling a gap and like a big run ensuing. Like there's just more chaos in a college football environment if it's like snowing or acclimate weather. But the fourth quarter, the second half, but really the fourth quarter of this game was like the ugliest watch because the Patriots went run, run, throw the ball the hell out of bounds, punt the ball out of bounds, play defense, get the ball back, run, run, throw the ball out of bounds, punt the ball out of bounds, get the ball back, let the backup quarterback fuck around, and then like, dude, it was the worst football watch ever. So, this is why like I have a little bit of inclement, like I'm a little bit more inclined to watch college football, but for Denver, there's two things I wanted to mention, and I'll let you guys all just take a stab at this. One, you do wish you take the points early in the game. You've got Jarrett Stidham. Like we're not playing with Drew Brees here, and we decided to go for it. I mean, I guess if you love the play call. And then the second thing is I liked RJ Harvey in this game for the Broncos. I think RJ Harvey was a bright spot in this. He had 6 broken tackles. He could catch the ball. His tackle, I was doing a little scouting on him, some Twitter dive on highlights and analytics and stuff. His tackle vision, like between the tackles vision, isn't great yet, but that can be developed. He's so good in space breaking tackles. So I thought he was the lone like fun watch on the Broncos offense.
I think just quick, a couple things I thought of. One, if Bo Nix was in this game, you have to believe that the Broncos would have found a way to win. It was close enough that I think that Nix is the type of guy that makes a few more plays in that game and is able to turn the tide for the Broncos. So
Especially
it's got
with
to
his
be
legs. That's like
yeah,
because
100%.
May made a couple really nice plays with his
Yeah.
legs.
That's got to be the most sour feeling for Broncos fans, knowing that this is the type of game profile that they got, and they could have easily won this if their starting quarterback didn't get injured. I was impressed by the Broncos defense, and they've been pretty awesome all year. But the thing that was the most impressive about this game is I think the Patriots are really good at vertical passing attack, and the Broncos completely took that away from them in this game. And you saw early in the game they tried to take a shot to Booty, and Surtain was just blanketed all over right in his hip pocket, and that the ball had no chance, and that's a big part of the Pats offense. So being able to take that away was impressive to me. And it just, this defense deserved a little more. They probably deserve to have an appearance in the Super Bowl. But Jarrett Stidham, the first drive, I mean, I thought there was some magic there, but
Those scripted drives,
yeah,
bro. You
the
can never
scripted
believe. You
drives are
can't
always,
believe
yeah.
those. You can't believe those.
Stidham probably was. I can't imagine how many times he solo walked through that first drive and was ready to rock and roll when he got out there. But then you see you see the regression to the mean, and you see him play at the level that he probably should have in that game. And then the last interception was it was basically an arm punt. Like that was I don't really have words to describe the the
Disgusting.
feeling seeing that happen. But the other thing was, the worst part about this game was with the way it started to play out, with, like you said, the Patriots getting the ball and going run, run, throw it out of bounds, or run, 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 punt it 30 yards and play D. When you go 3 and out that much, they go to commercial every single time that the ball changes possession. So the second half felt like it lasted like 2.5 hours. And I don't know if that's their stat to back that up, but that's what it felt like as a viewer. And just one more point quickly on Tony Romo. I think that Romo, I think he gets a lot of hate for his color commentary and how much it has regressed since he took over the job and stepped into the role with Jim Nantz. And I think that was exemplified in this game. And it was really hard watching that game and hearing him just recycle point after point and say the most obvious things. When you contrast that to the way that Tom Brady was breaking down the NFC Championship, you see that Romo is probably not at the level that he was to start. I think people say that a lot of the prep work that you do when you first become a color commentator, you over prepare, and that really shines through. And your prep, it's exemplified in what you're saying. And Romo used to do the thing where he would call out the play that was coming, and I think that was his niche, and it was pretty cool to see that, and that's why he got so much hype and everything. And I think as he became the guy and made all the money, maybe that prep work dropped off a little bit, and you get the product that you get now from Tony Romo, where he's just kind of reiterating the same few points and not really giving you a whole lot of football analysis, and it's not really fun. They're accompanying you through watching the game. So it's not really fun to sit down and watch a football game with Tony Romo as it is with a Troy Aikman or a Tom Brady, even a Chris Collinsworth. Like, he's so quirky that he'll fire me up, and I'll enjoy watching the game with him. And I know he's a little like zany, he's like an old like weird uncle, but it's still fun to watch a game with him and the way he perceives and looks at the game. So I think Tony Romo has regressed and is now at the bottom of that. I know Sam's a huge commentator guy, so I'm
Sam,
excited to hear what he has to say about this.
This is your wheelhouse. Take it away.
I think that like, all right, well, I'll lead off with like what you said, how Brady used to, or not Brady, Romo used to call out the plays. I think that you also have to think back. When did Romo start? In like 2020, 2019-ish,
Yeah.
like that?
Like the beginning of Mahomes.
His first big game was that Mahomes versus Brady game, the overtime game. That was his first, like, people were like, holy shit, this guy's good. He was arguably the first person that we all grew up with, unless I'm forgetting someone, but I think I'm right on this. He was the first person that we kind of grew up with and saw like play that became a commentator. He was kind of the first on this trend of like taking the real-time quarterback experience, especially in the modern game, and then translating that into the booth. And I think that like people also just get comfortable and familiar with things to where like his skit of like his little quirky, like, oh, I don't know, Jim, like all that, like that was funny and cool at first. And I think that people just get tired of it. I'm kind of on the opposite. Like I really like Romo and he just like makes me laugh in the booth. And my favorite part about the NFL, like number one broadcast between NBC, CBS, Fox, and ESPN is I feel like they each have their own little flair. Like Tirico is very poetic in how he announces a game. It's almost like like watching that Steelers Ravens game, it's like he's like the narrator of a story when Tirico's announcing a game. That's just how he's always been. And then Burkhardt on Fox does a really good job of just kind of being there and letting Brady cook. Like if I watch that back and I feel like you hear Brady is talking way more and Burkhardt just kind of says what's happening and lets Brady go. And then you have Aikman and Joe Buck that have like a cool little like the cool guys type booth. Like everyone likes those guys. They're both famous. And then I like the way that you have this classic commentator in Jim Nantz. And then Romo just I like him. I'm pro Romo and I think it's funny how he gets super excited. He just loves the game and I think he sometimes he gets too excited. And Brady does the same thing, but he doesn't get much hate for it. And I also am curious to see what's going to happen in like 4 years with Brady. Like, are people going to be like, oh, he's a know-it-all. He talks too much. Like this happens every time with an announcer. People like to have problems with announcers no matter what. So I just think I like how each broadcast has their little flair, and I do like Romo, and he adds a little bit of fun to the game.
All
And
right.
I like Jim Nantz. I'm a Romo guy, but yes, I understand why people might not like him because I think like some of his corny stuff is funny.
Arch, we're going to shift this thing to the Pats side of things. So I'm going to be interested to get your thoughts after I just give this short little thing. The Pats, the New England Patriots are a world-class organization, and there's just no getting around that. You can hate as much as you'd like. You could say they're ungrateful because they had all of this the Brady era, the Belichick era, the 6 rings, and then now they're right back in the Super Bowl, and that's all fair. That's all fair, but they rebuilt this thing perfectly. They were bad enough to get a great quarterback in the draft, a young quarterback within the top 10 of the draft. So I think it was the 3rd pick, right? Am I right on that? So they have the 3rd overall pick. They get a quarterback. Then they don't like any of the coaches on the market at that time. So they hire a guy that's probably not very well qualified for the job. After that season, it goes poorly yet again. They get another high draft pick, and then they hire Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel completely changes the culture. They don't have the hardest path, no doubt. And there's not much to be impressed about in this playoff run from Drake May, but the defense is super impressive, and I will give them credit for that. And they still won 3 playoff games against Jim Harbaugh, against Sean Payton, against D'Amico Ryan. So, I mean, it's not the hardest, but you just got to they put themselves in this position to be successful. And sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but to be lucky, you got to put yourself in opportune situations for luck to bear itself out, which is what they did here. Arch, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it, I think, a month ago whenever we were first diving back in the NFL. I believe Sam brought up the point that the Patriots did a really smart rebuild with the whole Gerard Mayo year and then this disaster. And then you kind of felt ass backwards in the Drake May because you had 2 other really good quarterbacks in that draft with Williams and Daniels. So the Patriots were sitting in a perfect position. And then I don't know if you get the best developer for him because Josh McDaniels is just like you wouldn't write home about his offensive play calling and quarterback development, but he's been.
Really? I think he's the best OC in the
I think he's getting a little too much discredit.
I think he's the best offensive coordinator in the league in terms of like, he's not head coach, not play caller, like offensive coordinator, because that's what he is. He's not a head coach.
Well, he calls plays
in perpetuity. I'm saying he's the best job offensive coordinator. Like, what other OC would you like that's not gonna leave to be a head coach? It's like Vrabel has the perfect.
I see what
It's like
you're saying.
Vrabel has the perfect setup. He's like the CEO with a coordinator that can never leave, who's really good at his job.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying because I was about to say like 2 or 3 names, but yeah, I think that they are. So I think that and also they have a great coaching staff with Vrabel and who we just mentioned. So it's going to be. I think it'll be interesting to see because obviously this is going to be the Super Bowl and I don't want to discredit them getting here, but I feel like I don't think they fully return back to the Patriot way, and unless they if they get blown out in the Super Bowl, I think it's just gonna be showing that they just got they were fortuitous in their path they took, and I think I'm not gonna be fully sold on them, but I do like the steps that they've taken, and I do really like Drake May as a quarterback.
Their defense is like something I kind of want to highlight in these playoffs. They're giving up 8.7 points a game, 3.3 yards per play. They've forced 8 turnovers. Their opponents are 30% on conversion downs, 3rd and 4th down. So, and then I do think they have the best corner duo in the league. So one thing, Milton Williams, who Duska, you're intimately familiar with as a Philadelphia Eagle. Milton Williams and Christian Gonzalez, when they play on the field together, the Patriots are 10-0 this year. So when they have their game-wrecking D lineman and then their game-wrecking secondary player, they're 10-0. I do think they have the best corner duo in the league as well. We talked about Christian Gonzalez. He's locked down. He's like a face guarding corner. You put him on the outside, you set it, you forget it. It's like a great fantasy lineup. Just don't even worry about it. Now, their spark plug corner is their slot corner, Marcus Jones, who's been getting a little bit more buzz recently, which I'm super happy about because this guy is the man. And when you talk about Travis Hunter type of players with that play offense and play defense, I just think in the NFL it's not going to exist. I think Travis Hunter just dealt with an injury, and there's going to be a point in time where Travis Hunter has to pick a side of the football. But I do think there's a chance you could still impact the game as a defensive player in the offense, using returns. So Marcus Jones, he's a great slot corner, one of the best in the league. He also he's got the highest punt return average in NFL history at 14.7 yards. He's the first player in 45 years this year to score a defensive touchdown on a pick six, a return touchdown with punt and kick. And then he also has an offensive touchdown this year on a screenplay. So he still has that gadget offensive ability. First guy in 45 years to do that. I just think like that's a football player. And the Patriots are filled with guys like Ellis and guys like Stephon Diggs, like just football players that just get the job done. Best corner doing the league, good defense. We'll see what happens when they roll the ball out for the Super Bowl this year. Yeah, nothing more to say, seems like, from the guys about this fucking ugly game. All right. Moving on.
Talk about this nonsense.
What?
Transfer portal.
No, not yet.
No.
You want to do portal first? Or you want to do the coaching stuff first? I wanted to kind of leave the portal for the last.
Yeah, let's do coaching because
Okay.
thoughts will take about 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. I'm gonna give my Mike McCarthy kind of thing here. So I get the whole like this isn't a big change from going from Mike Tomlin to Mike McCarthy. And while you're right in terms of age and resume, like one Super Bowl, they both have a ton of winning seasons, but not tons of playoff success. You're right about age and resume, but in terms of what they do as a football coach, vastly different. Mike Tomlin does not call plays on either side of the football. Mike McCarthy does. He's the offensive play caller. He also has a track record of developing quarterbacks. He's worked with Joe Montana, Rich Gannon, Brett Favre. He developed Aaron Rodgers was his real project that he developed. He took him into quarterback camp. He fixed his mechanics. He won a Super Bowl with him. That's his pride and joy. And then Dak Prescott had some really nice years with him. You can't deny he's got the QB whisperer gene. But if this was like Shieldhouse from like the McVay tree, if we ended up hiring him as our head coach, like he's like in that whiz kid like LaFleur, Shanahan, Ben Johnson type of thing. But like over here in the other corner of like is like an older group of offensive coaches, and that's Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Doug Peterson, Gruden. Mike McCarthy's in that era of play calling coaches, and two of those coaches, one of them, Reid's gone Super Bowl after Super Bowl, and then Sean Payton had a lot of success this year. Mike McCarthy is one of these guys, and here's okay. And then let me keep going a little bit. So I don't think the guy who got this job is all that important. What I do think is important is what direction are we taking the team? You could have fucking hired me here, but if we're trying to win 10 games this year, we missed the point. Like we have to, it's about our direction. We should be trying to be bad. The last Steelers pick inside the top 10 that wasn't like natural, we didn't trade up for like the Devin Bush trade. 2000, Plaxico Burress was our last top 10 pick. We got him at 8. Okay, 2000, Plaxico Burress, 25 years ago. Never made a Pro Bowl, though, so not our best work. Anyway, and then in Big Ben in 2004 was the 11th pick. So right outside of the range I said, but those were our last two, like, top 10 picks. So when we won a Super Bowl in the 70s, these were our top picks. It went Joe Green, Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, and Lynn Swann. That in 6 years, we drafted 4 Hall of Famers. Now, and when we had our other run of 2005 and 2009 Super Bowls, from 2001 to 2007, we drafted Big Ben and Troy Polamalu, Hall of Famers, and then we drafted 3 Pro Bowls: Casey Hampton, Lawrence Timmons, and Heath Miller. So you're talking about building through the draft. You're getting good picks, and you're hitting on these good picks. Like this is not a rocket science. You do have to build through the draft. And when you get the 21st to the 18th pick every year, it's really hard to construct an elite roster because we're just not getting Hall of Fame talent like we had on prior teams. So all in all, I just like to say, we have to build through the draft. We have to do what we got to do and sell some of our assets, some of our good players to get draft capital. And then we have to be bad. If we go 9-8 next year and we just miss the point. And unless Will Howard is like a stud and he wills us to victory and Will Howard's like the next thing, then the only like us being 9-8 is not okay. And Rooney, like our owner saying like we hired this guy because we don't want to like we want to avoid a rebuild. Like what a fucking tone deaf thing to say. And just like if that's seriously the direction we're going, like count me out. Sorry, Sam, I just went on. What do you agree or disagree from that?
No, so what I was gonna say is I feel like I was worried about this because there was reports around this time last week that this could happen, and I did not think that they were actually going to do it. And when it became official, I was pretty mad about it at first. Just my initial knee-jerk reaction was like, what are we doing? Here we go again. I think the 99% majority of people thought the same way, especially those outside of the Steeler fan base and organization.
They
But
better get their
started to
opinion
do a
for
little
him.
bit I started to do a little bit of digging and just like reading about Mike McCarthy and some of the things that he's done. Obviously, like Charlie touched on, he takes credit for developing Aaron Rodgers and worked with Brett Favre and Montana and all these guys in his career. I read another cool thing about arguably his finest work that no one ever talks about is a guy named Aaron Brooks. He was traded from the Packers to the Saints in 2000 and was their starter for 5 years. And in 2003, like obviously fourth round pick in the 2000s, like probably not a super talented quarterback. This guy was McCarthy's basically first project of a quarterback that he built from scratch. In 2003, McCarthy or Brooks had 3,500 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions for the Saints, which is known by some people that are closer to him as one of his finest pieces of work. So he has a track record
You're
of
not going to hear
developing.
the Aaron Brooks shout on the legacy media. I tell you that much.
Yes, so you're not going to like, yes, he is a quarterback whisperer. And I think that the Steelers have a very interesting opportunity here to leverage some of their pieces, as in TJ Watt and potentially guys like Jalen Ramsey and DK Metcalf, to teams that might be one position player away that might have a quarterback on a cheap deal that are willing to take on some of that salary. And then another thing I want to point out too, on the terms of the Cowboys, where a lot of people just think that he was bad and they were bad because it's the Cowboys, but he also had two really big coordinators with Kellen Moore and uh,
No,
Dan Quinn
oh yeah,
were
yeah,
his two coordinators that are
yeah.
very successful coaches now. And
Dan Quinn,
I
he
also
was
want to
up to get
That
coached
was like
too.
a rehab job for Dan Quinn.
But still,
and
Kellen Moore
I
though,
want to
he gets a little.
I want to preface this from his Cowboy stint as well. So he had bat 3 in a row years of top five scoring offenses. In 2021, they were first in scoring. And in 2023, they were first in scoring as well. In 2022, they were fourth in scoring. But Cooper Rush was their starting quarterback for 5 games, and they still were successful in offense. So I think the interesting part of the Steelers' opportunity here with a guy like McCarthy, who's 62 years old, who most likely will not be their coach in 10 years. They have a cool opportunity to draft a quarterback and or get a quarterback and develop them on a relatively cheap deal with a offensive minded head coach who will be calling plays and kind of holding this quarterback's hand for the next 3 to 4 years, however that goes. And hopefully they will be able to hire a younger offensive coordinator who can then potentially get promoted to that head coaching spot and have an almost continuation plan of a seamless transition versus this coach just burning out. So while it is not the most inspiring hire to the casual eye, I think there's actually some things to be excited about here. And when you are in a position this year to probably draft a wide receiver in the first round and,
Lyman.
like Charlie was saying, be bad for a year or two and load up on draft picks, especially in this next draft with at the quarterback position, like there is a chance of a quicker rebuild here if things go right.
Did anything we say convince you a little bit, guys?
I think that this hire is not super inspiring, but it's also solid. I think Mike McCarthy is a little underrated at this point. if you look at his resume compared to all the other one Super Bowl win coaches that are currently head coaches in the NFL, like a John Harbaugh or a Sean Payton, if there's another one, it's not popping off the top of my head. He's got pretty similar record and proof of success and ability to implement a system into a team and have success. Like the Cowboys' offenses were very good under Mike McCarthy. They had a lot of misfortune in the playoffs. In the playoffs, in the years he was there, I think partially was bad. A lot of it was bad decisions made by Dak Prescott, and the part of that falls on the head coach. But they were still in good positions and had really good teams under him while he was there. So I think the hiring is a little underrated, and I think the Steelers are putting themselves in a position to shift how they do things and shift towards a more offensive model, which could be good for them because they haven't had good quarterback play in a long time there. And that's the good quarterback play is the primary driver of NFL team success. So I think that they're in a good position. It all depends on, like you were saying, if they're bad this year. Because if they are, this is one of the best quarterback classes potentially of all time coming up in 2027. If the Steelers have a high draft pick that year, then they're in a good position to get their guy for the future. And I would trust him in the hands of Mike McCarthy. So it's good in that sense, but it's also they might not be bad if they don't fully commit to being bad. They could just be the same exact team because the offense is going to produce enough and they have enough pieces in place on defense that they could just do the same exact thing they've done the last however many years under Tomlin. So it, like you're saying, it's all dependent on the direction the organization wants to go and if they're truly committed to getting a high draft pick and picking a QB.
All right, hit
I
me
would
up.
also pose a question before Arch goes. Quick, no one even has to answer, but who do you trust more in developing a young quarterback? Would it be Mike McCarthy or a young, unproven head coach? So that's what I would think about too. Like you have a proven quarterback developer in McCarthy versus a coach that is not even called plays for his own team.
Arch,
That's a
hit
good
me.
point.
Well, yeah, I don't really know how to feel because it's like not a like Dusty said, it's not like it doesn't move me that much, but it also I think that sometimes that's good because in the NFL, like there's some teams that can make like horrible decisions, and I just don't. This decision was like a fine one. I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was like great. I also think it was perfectly on brand for the Steelers. But to me, yeah, I mean, if you are bad, all you have to do, like Chuck was talking about, is draft a bunch of Hall of Famers and you'll be good. But so we'll see if Omar Khan can do that. But what we are talking about with a young QB, I think that it would be really cool for the Steelers to try and get a guy, a Sam Darnold type player with McCarthy and see if he can do anything for the year. I don't know Aaron Rodgers' deal salary or like if he's still. I don't y'all can enlighten me. But I think I would really like to see y'all go out and get Will Levis and see if you can make something shake in the Steel
Oh, I
City.
saw that on Twitter, Arch. No, no.
Dude, well, I mean, the problem is half of his clips are that 2023 game versus the Falcons where they were wearing the throwback Oilers jerseys.
Yeah, he made some
So,
incredible throws. He's got a rubber arm, but like I don't know if the intangibles
So did Zach Wilson.
That Sam Darnold. I mean, no, we didn't get gypped any more than the Zach Wilson back foot combine throw. I remember that throw. That was like going crazy on Twitter. Like, but yeah, Arch, I think Mac Jones would be a little bit more.
that's true. I forgot about him.
Like,
I would
he's
actually love to
probably
see Mac
better.
Jones in a Falcons uniform. So
Yeah,
I
like
would
I think
take
Mac
y'all can
Jones.
have Levis.
Mac Jones or Tua would probably be the two quarterbacks that you're like, give me a second chance. Now
Tua moves me a little.
I would do that below the
I
Mason
said last
Dixon
week.
line. I think put him out west, a little bit closer to home. Because in throwing the ball in Pittsburgh when it's like rainy and snowy and cold, like that doesn't move me necessarily, but regular season Tua in like a nice fall day in Pittsburgh really moves me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is it crazy? I mean, again, it is simple. Just fucking go draft Hall of Famers, but you got to get the draft picks in order to assemble the roster. You know, and we don't
No,
have.
yeah, I get that. I get that.
I think you're in a unique opportunity next year where you have basically the only we kind of said this about this year of like
Well, we need to
if
lose.
this Rodgers thing works, it works. If it doesn't, it won't. And we're just either going to be really good or really bad. And that didn't happen. But I think this year you also have a cool opportunity
Who said we
to.
were going to be really good?
I thought we
Sam.
could. There was a possibility that we could be
Dude,
really
there
good.
was no chance that we were staring 7 to 10 wins down the barrel of
Well,
a
I
gun.
thought we were going to be good.
Well,
Well,
I'm also
well,
not the one to listen to about this
yeah, come on,
audience.
dude. You
No,
convinced
I think they have a unique opportunity to take a chance on a quarterback with a no lose situation. Like,
Yeah.
all right, here you go, Mac Jones. Here's the
20
keys.
Yeah, here's $20
Do
million.
whatever you want. If you're bad, great. Like,
Mason
perfect.
Rudolph.
y'all should
That
do
would
like
be
a
the worst
y'all
case
should,
situation.
What were you saying,
Because
Arch?
you know what you're getting with him.
y'all should do a retread and try and help Jalen Hurts.
Well, the Eagles are going to trade 4 first rounders for Joe Burrow, so I'm sure Hurts will be on the market after that.
All right, hey, listen. It's so much fun talking about the Steelers. Always love it. No, we're gonna move on to the next team. There's the Buffalo Bills. They hired Joe Brady. And the pod nailed this, kind of sniffed this out. We knew Josh Allen was going to be heavily involved in the process. Like, this was his guy, his offensive coordinator. He was also the offensive coordinator at
Panthers.
yeah,
LSU.
no, LSU with Joe Burrow. I think it could definitely work out, but here's the two things that I just think like weird. Why in the press conference would you say the things you did if you were going to hire in-house Joe Brady? Like, walk with me here. Hold my hand for a second. So they didn't want, like, Terry Pagula in the press was like, hey, I don't want to fire Sean McDermott, but when I got in the locker room, it was just so disheartening. Like, I knew we had to make a change. Like, we had just been through too many tough losses. So then you just hire the offensive coordinator that was also with you through the tough losses. Okay, that was just part one. Part two is the Keon Coleman thing where, like, it wasn't Brandon Beane's fault, it was the staff's fault. When they drafted Keon Coleman, what staff member do you think had the biggest say in that room for drafting Keon Coleman? You think it was defensive head coach Sean McDermott? Or do you think Sean McDermott was probably like, oh, dude, Joe Brady really wants Keon Coleman. The play calling offensive coordinator really likes him. Like, like, who do you think was responsible for that? Like, yeah. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, why? Terry Pagula just scares me in this scenario. Like, how good is this Bills organization? Because Terry Pagula also owns the Buffalo Sabres, if you guys didn't know. And the Buffalo Sabres are the worst franchise in the NHL. They're like the New York Jets of the NHL. They have 14 consecutive playoff 14-year consecutive playoff drought. They ran the best American hockey player in the world, Jack Eichel, out of the building. And the Jets, they're tied in North American sports for longest playoff droughts. So
That's going to end this year, probably, though.
Okay, I'm just saying.
I think a lot of potential issues have been masked by the success that Josh Allen's brought to the Bills. And I think Sean McDermott could have been a part of that. And the culture and system that he was able to implement in Buffalo. And then obviously you benefit a lot from having Josh Allen on your team. I think that might have covered up a lot of deficiencies that they have coming from the top in the organization. And then going down from there, what teams have the Bills had recently that inspire you and you think that they're putting this quarterback that they have, it's probably the best quarterback talent wise, or if not the best, he's one or two. He's in the NFL, and what are you surrounding him with, and what have you done organizationally to put him in the best position to win a Super Bowl? I'm not saying that they haven't had the opportunities to win with Josh Allen, but I think that they've handicapped themselves with the moves they've made, and I think that a lot of that could have been sewn up and masked by a combination of Sean McDermott being there and Josh Allen. And I think Joe Brady, they'll be fine under him because they've proven that they can produce on offense with him there. But I don't know if he's going to be able to make the draft picks. And as long as you still have the same structure in place that you've had and you're just changing the head coach, then it's not that inspiring to me that Sean McDermott's out the door because maybe he wasn't the biggest issue. He was just a symptom of a bigger cause that's failing the Bills. So I think that Joe Brady's a fine hire. They'll be fine, and they'll still be good and produce a lot on offense and be one of the best teams in the AFC. But it's not like there's institutional changes that are going to overhaul the Bills and put Josh Allen in a better position to succeed. So it's not this hiring is not that inspiring either. I think that structural change had to come maybe from like Pagula down to maybe moving on from who's running your front office right now and putting such fielding such poor teams for the Bills. So it's a fine hire, but I don't know if you're going to see a lot of change out of the organization.
Yeah, I kind of predicted. I think we all were like, yeah, I think this sounds like just like a Joe Brady promotion. I am. I don't. I kind of like tried to gauge the temperature of like the Bills fan base because I follow the Bills in a few accounts and I was looking at like all their like social media, like fans and people hate this hire. And I don't know if you've watched from like the Joe Brady times whenever he was hired in 2023 on. And also, you lost Diggs, so that obviously is going to play a role. But the vertical passing game of the Bills the last couple of seasons has been horrible, and partly it's because of Joe Brady's like play calling at times. They were running a lot of bubble screens, but also that's the fact they don't have any deep threat receivers, and they don't have the personnel to, so they're running bubble screens and slants to Khalil Shakir. So I'm going to be interested to see how this works with him. I think he's going to be able to call plays fine. I don't think he's going to be great at it because I think there was definitely some struggles. But also what Duska hit on, now that you're the head coach, you're not just calling plays. You are the leader of the team, which the team was already seemed pretty pissed off that McDermott got fired, which is going to be tough to get some of those guys like the Deion Dawkins, like their captains, back on board with Joe Brady. And also that means he's going to be the guy that's going to be determining who drafts. And like you said, Chuck, he's probably had a role in the Keon Coleman one. So you don't really know where, and I don't like this direction for the Bills. And like a senile owner will do like senile owner things and try and justify it to themselves. And I think that's happening here. And it only makes sense to him, but I mean, it's his money. So we'll see how how this turns out. But I think this was probably the most likely and predictable scenario for the Bills. So it's hard to like have any critiques, I guess, other than what we said.
Do we want to do a Dabo thing or do we want to get off?
I would do the Dabo.
Dude, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited for this segment.
Me too.
Okay. Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. For the first time, they decide, we're going to go swimming with the Sharks with the portal. And when Luke Ferrelli, first time I watched Luke Ferrelli, I was watching the Cal SMU game, and I was like, dude, I like this kid. 41 out here, flying around. And then I saw he won ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then I saw he was going to Clemson. I was like, oh, huge get for Clemson. Like, good on Dabo for getting this guy. And then fucking debauchery ensued. And if you have not watched the press conference Dabo Swinney gave on this matter, it is pure gold. If you didn't like Dabo Swinney, you will after watching this press conference. So the kid signs, he enrolls in class, he's walking around like he's in classes at Clemson. If you were a student in the economics department, you might have saw him. And so anyway, Ole Miss reaches out to him as he's a student before the portal closes, as he's a student at Clemson. And they basically are like, hey, man, like this is the money we could give you if you came. And Pete Golding is like talking to him on the phone. They get supposedly Jackson Dart and Trinidad Chambliss both called him, telling him to come to Ole Miss. Dabo got wind of this. He told Pete Golding, or at least like the guys, a contact he had at Ole Miss. He said, tell Pete, stop right now, or like I will like go to the press. Like you will not get away with this. Pete Golding, 4 weeks into being a head coach, he's like a newborn head coach, like Dabo was putting it, decides, fuck it, I'm gonna mess with an elite Hall of Fame head coach. And he's gonna find out because they keep pursuing him. He ends up like leaving the facility one day, Ferrelli, and committing to entering the transfer portal without telling anybody. So then the compliance guy's like, Dabo, there's your linebacker's in the portal. And he's like, what? And like, dude, just a whole insane. And then dude, this is the funniest quote. Ferrelli's agent was like, "Yeah, we'll help you. We'll help you put Ole Miss down. Just match the number." And Dabo hung up the phone, dude. Fucking baller move from Dabo Sweeney. Um, he wanted him to stop. He didn't. And I hope they get their revenge. Arch, I'm really excited. Like, I really want to know, like, does the NCAA have teeth here? Because the old NCAA, like, Ole Miss is screwed. I hope Ole Miss gets like 10 years bowl banned. I hope they get the death penalty because at some point somebody's got to be made example of. And what more perfect example of? I mean, he's like Dabo Sweeney is saying like 11:46 p.m. or a.m. This phone call happens. Like, dude, they are dead to rights if the NCAA has teeth here, do they?
No, because if they have no teeth because the NCAA has no authority or power without any legislation from the United States of America, from federal statutes or federal common law. And since they have none to this point, anything the NCAA does will just end up in court, like we've seen. So, I mean, nothing is going to happen. And even if something did, Ole Miss would appeal it, and then you would go back down the rabbit hole of the whole they just sued for everything and then they get away with it.
I loved Ole
So I
Miss
don't
so
think
much, and
that.
I couldn't be more of an Ole Miss hater now. I am forever on. That shit is insane.
Well,
I
you
want to
hired a douchebag after getting rid of a douchebag, so it's not shocking.
I want to talk about I think there's just a lot of bad actors in this situation. I think Pete Golding's definitely a bad actor, and whoever's helping administrate the recruitment of Luke Ferrelli from Old Miss's end, I think those are all bad actors that are pretty narrow viewed and pretty okay with eroding some of the foundations that should exist and should just be common practice. You don't really need regulations in place to enforce this, but I know these coaches get paid a lot of money to win games and they're going to do whatever it takes to do that. So it's hard to place 100% blame on anyone in the situation, but I just think there's a lot of narrow-sighted people involved in this that are acting in bad faith towards the goal of creating a college football environment that's sustainable for the future. And I think another bad actor in this situation, and you see this pop up across the entire landscape of college football as the transfer portal and NIL has become a thing and implemented in this sport. I think a lot of the agents are really taking advantage of being able to basically act without any rules. And it's like I was saying, it's very narrow sighted and really bad for the game. And this guy in particular, Ryan Williams, who works for an agency called Athletes First, whose motto, let me just read their motto off. It's the first thing you see when you open their website. Their motto is changing the game for clients everywhere. Do the right things with the right people for the right reasons. So if you're acting based off
Mission
of that
statement.
motto, then I think that they're a little bit slanted and a little bit off
Well,
base
I think
from their goal. And I
you
think we
missed
should
it, Duska.
change. I want to
It's
change the
ironic.
motto.
Yeah, it's supposed to be
It's very
ironic when you
ironic. I
read it.
want to
Yeah.
change the motto to athletes first, ruining the game for clients everywhere. Do the wrong things with the wrong people because they have more money. And that's when you boil it down to it. And when you see what this agent Ryan Williams did over the course of the Luke Ferrelli recruitment process, and with them even entertaining Ole Miss after he was signed and enrolled and going to team meetings and working out with the team and going to classes and everything, when you see how they acted on that end, and I think this is being driven by the agent because I think these guys just for a lot of it boils down to I think that they just want more commission on the deals that their clients are signing. And I think he saw that, oh my gosh, Ole Miss is guaranteeing $2 million a year for you to go there. We're not making even close to that amount, and we don't have guarantees from Clemson. So why don't we do that? And you can bend the rules and find a way to get to Ole Miss. And I think that it's the things that happened in this process are completely absurd to me, and Ryan Williams using extortion tactics from Clemson and asking for a quid pro quo like a give us $1 million and we'll turn in the text so you can bust Ole Miss and take them down. I think it's just completely ridiculous. And like I was saying, it's very narrow sighted, and these guys are so focused on this cycle this year and doing the most they can to maximize their profits. It's eroding the foundation of the sport, and it's ruining it. And I think Dabo had a good quote too when he basically summed it up by saying that it's like having an affair on your honeymoon. And it's just sad to see a guy that's enrolled at the school and in classes is not safe, and you can't even be certain that he's a part of the roster. And the other ironic part about it is that it's Clemson. It's the team and the coach that was so hesitant about the portal and so committed to bringing in players out of high school and developing them and not touching the portal. And then you see him dip the toes in the water and actually do a good job. They do everything right. They're good recruiters there, and they bring in a good player and sign him, and then this type of thing happens to them, and you're just like, where does this leave Dabo, and will he ever want to touch the portal again? So it's a completely ridiculous situation. It's very sad, and like I've said, it boils down to there's a lot of bad actors that don't really care about the sustainability of college football and are really just focused on trying to maximize their opportunity in just 1 year. So.
Yeah, I agree, Jessica. I think the root of the problem here is these so-called agents that are allegedly working in the best interest of their players, yet putting their player in the middle of a situation where instead of shutting down the tampering, like the obvious tampering, they use it as leverage. And that is where the root of the problem with this whole situation is that you have guys leveraging players and their well-being for a percentage of a paycheck. And that is going to be the problem until there's legislation and or regulation on who is able to represent these players and how they're able to represent these players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to add one thing. I think the ACC needs to kind of step in here and give these schools boilerplate terms and boilerplate templates for these contracts now, because I think there's a clear difference. Obviously, the Mensa thing we'll talk about next week or whenever, but there's a clear difference between the contracts that Mensa had at Duke and that Ferrelli had at Clemson compared to what Damon Williams had at Washington that made him stay. And it wasn't just Damon Williams' change of heart. It was actual terms that they were legally bound by when they signed a contract. So I think now the ACC definitely need, if they were competent, they would step in and give these schools these. And it's also ironic because the ACC has just sat back and watched Duke get a quarterback ripped from their hands that's going to go to Miami because, of course, they're going to want their big names in their conference to have the most success. So obviously they're not going to do anything. But I think this is going to be the time for conferences all over to see these other examples and kind of – I think we're going to see less and less of this because contract terms and conditions and buyouts and punishments are going to be that much higher.
So you think there's no way that they could just be like, hey, you're not – there's like – are there not explicit rules against tampering though? And could they not prove without a reasonable doubt in court that there was tampering and that you should get 5 years, no bowl game?
Usually there's not going to be – I don't think they would go to court. It would be like an NCAA like hearing where like the NCAA – and I mean there is that's how like that would happen, but –
Yeah, but imagine
the evidence is so clear, though, that they should be able to, like Dabo was saying in the press conference, they should be able to settle this pretty quickly. And even if Ole Miss appeals – review the appeal quickly and have a decision made by the beginning of next season. Like you don't have to. There doesn't have to be like wait time or
red
like,
tape.
Yeah, like legislative like back end work that has to go into being able to make a decision on this. Like they should be able to, with all the evidence that Dabo presented in the press conference and made public, they should be able to rule on it fast and get through an appeal process fast. That it just doesn't make. There's no. It's like common sense doesn't exist in these situations, and it's kind of crazy because it's a sport that's worth so much money, but there's no regulations or rules or anything. It's unbelievable.
I would just say that the tampering won't take away that Ferrelli's going to be on Ole Miss's roster next year, and like that could be fine because that's the unfortunate part about this. Like Ole Miss can get punished for tampering, and maybe part of their punishment they pay Clemson $1 million for their revenue sharing. But that guy's going to be on Ole Miss's roster next year. So Clemson you basically got hoed, and your compensation doesn't change the fact you lost a guy in the portal window. Now you don't all these guys that you took over that you took Ferrelli over aren't going to be on your team. So yeah, sports broken.
It's so sad that we can't get hey, Ole Miss, you blatantly broke the rules. Here's our evidence. 8 years, you're not allowed to have a bowl game, and your revenue sharing is cut to $10 million a year. You're fucked. I wish they had some sort of teeth, because we're talking about an NCAA that took a Heisman Trophy from a guy, and an NCAA that had a death penalty on SMU back in the day. This used to be an organization with some teeth. Now they're
I don't know what happened to teams getting wins revoked and titles revoked. I don't know how that ever stopped being a thing, but
yep. Trucking. Now they get the teethless guppy.
Just a lot of bad actors.
Yeah, bad actors. Well, we got four good actors on this show, so we're gonna be keeping you guys updated with college football, transfer portal, Super Bowl, golf, Olympics, some hockey. We'll probably give you some Pens content up and around the bend. So just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you when we see you within the next week.